Get going, want to recognize a few of our platinum sponsors here this morning. They're up on your screen right now. DNA Genetics, Farm Credit Services of America, Green Gable Contracting, the Mashoffs, Cactus Family Farms, and Fibro Animal Health, all platinum level sponsors of the conference here today. Couldn't do it without your support, so make sure you guys take a look at the program and some of the things these companies have to offer. With that, we're going to roll, I think, right into our first session of the morning. If you look at the pork industry here in the state and really throughout the Midwest, there has been really a great increase in demand for contract production of pork, of swine here in the state. And really wanted to take just a little bit of time here this morning to highlight some of those contract opportunities, some of the players in that market. There's several throughout the state that are looking for production partners, and we have two folks in particular that we're fortunate to have us join us here this morning. That is Carl Jacobson with the Mashoffs and Rod Lehman with Cactus Family Farms, and I'd like to welcome them to the program here at this time. Good morning, guys. Thank you for joining us. Why don't we get started and we'll just take a quick second to introduce yourselves, take a few minutes to talk about your company. Carl, do you want to lead us off?
Yeah, thanks, Will. Work for the Mashoffs here in Nebraska, the business development manager. Cover the state of Nebraska and do a little bit of work in Northwest Iowa currently for the Mashoffs. The Mashoffs is a family-owned company based out of Carlisle, Illinois. That we cover about 9 states with operations all across the Midwest. With roughly about 185,000 sows, marking about 4 million pigs a year. Eventually, I'll go through a slide deck quick and kind of get in deeper of what we have going on out here in Nebraska. But really appreciate Will and Steve and the team at AFAN for putting on this event today, and looking forward to hopefully meeting some more people face to face further down the road.
Thank you, Carl. Appreciate having you on here today. Rod, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Rod Lehman with Cactus Family Farms, Director of Business Development for our company. Like Carl, I have a little slide deck we can go through that talks about what we're trying to accomplish in Nebraska. But we're glad to be here today. Like to thank AFAN for putting on the meeting. Also like to give a shout out to many of our great partners in Nebraska, many of whom are sponsors of this event. So construction companies, lenders, environmental groups, engineering groups, all those folks are critical to our success in the state of Nebraska. So we're happy to be here, and encourage everybody to take a look at the offerings from those other sponsors. So yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Rod. And just a quick housekeeping item. We will have a question and answer session here for these guys, as well as for several of our other panel discussions throughout the day. If anyone that is viewing the program wants to submit a question, they can do so in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and then someone from our staff here in Lincoln will see that and be able to send that to me so we can get those questions answered. Rod, while I've got you on, I think you mentioned you had some slides or something you wanted to share. Do you want to go ahead and do that at this time before we get into the questions?
Sure, that'd be great. Go ahead, I'll put this up and you tell me when you can see the screen there. I'm having trouble sharing it, Will. Oh. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, let's.
There we go.
You get it now?
Yep, let's see here. Okay, can you see, is it full screen there?
Yep, we look like we're good here.
Okay, well, appreciate the time here, and I know Carl's got some slides too, and we want to get through these fairly fast so we have a lot of time for questions. Just rest assured that this slide deck will be available. We'll make it available to AFAN after the meeting here, so don't worry about taking notes or anything, but just sit back and listen, and we'll hopefully get through it, and then we'll have a great time for some questions and answers. Again, my name is Rod Lehman. I live in Fort Dodge, Iowa. I've been in the pork business since 1992 and since 2015 with Cactus Family Farms. I'm the Director of Business Development for Cactus Family Farms, and I'm active in the Iowa and Nebraska Pork Producers Association, and I'm the big, tall, fat guy in the back there, if you don't know. Let's see, can we go on slide? So let's talk about Cactus real quickly. Cactus, as many people know, we're in beef production, pork production, but a lot of people don't know we've moved into hog buying with Heinold Hog Markets, and also pork processing with the Holstone Farms plant in Fremont, Nebraska. We're the second largest privately owned cattle feeding company in the country. We feed over 1 million cattle a year, primarily in the panhandle of Texas and southern Kansas. On the hog production side, we operate 35,000 sows, and we own all those pigs. We have sows in South Carolina, Georgia, and Iowa. We produce about 850,000 market hogs a year. We'll be growing our sow base in 2021, which we're really excited about, and that's one of the reasons we're eager to continue our work in Nebraska with Weaned to Finish partners. But our newest venture is the Fremont plant, pork processing plant, Holstone Farms. Heinold markets about 1.4 million animals a year. That's culls, boars, and cull sows, 8 locations throughout the U.S. Our Fremont, Nebraska plant, we purchased that in 2018. We're one of 220 independent producers that owns a piece of that plant. We're processing about 10,000 head per day right now and planning some renovations in 2019 and 2020 here that will take us on up probably to a double shift at that plant at some point. That was the former Hormel plant, if people remember. That's kind of how we're oriented. We got cattle in the southwest, a lot of hogs in Iowa, sows in the southeast, and the green are the Heinold buying stations. One of the great things about Cactus that most people don't know is that we have Nebraska roots, and we're also employee owned. Paul Engler has Northeast Nebraska roots. As a matter of fact, Paul, our founder, was a UNL graduate, and recently in the last few years at UNL has founded the Engler Entrepreneur Program. Paul moved to Texas in the 70s to start Cactus, and by 1990 he started to sell the company to his employees. In 2010 that transaction was complete, so we are 100% employee owned. We're very, very proud of that. We have an ownership culture at all levels, so I'm an owner. Anyone you talk to from Cactus is going to be an owner of the company, anyone you work with on a daily basis. We really feel like it gives us an advantage in our relationships, especially with our producer partners. I mean, we're here today to talk about contracting, so why are we talking about contracting? Well, I believe that contracting, especially swine contracting, is the best way to set the next generation of farming on solid financial ground. This is a proven business model in the Midwest. Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, you know, have been doing this for a long, long time. I think the contracting thing is fairly new to Nebraska, but this is a proven concept with proven returns, proven cash flows, proven equity builds. It's just been an overall good investment over time. So when you're talking about the next generation or adding value to a grain farm, for example, this is one of the best opportunities still to this day in the country. So just if you're not familiar with contracting, I'll just go through this real quickly. Who does what in contracting? Well, you're the contractor, okay, and we're the producer. So the contractor, you would own the barn and maintain the barn and the site. You care for our pigs daily. You load the pigs in and out of the barn. You communicate with us on pig health, scheduling, concerns that you have. You keep some records and report on activity, probably weekly, more so than anything. And then, of course, you retain and apply the manure to your crop ground, which is one of the big value propositions here. But what does Cactus do? Well, Cactus, obviously, we pay you, the contractor, for the barn and your services. We own the pigs, so you have no market risk, no feed price risk. That means no corn and soybean meal price risk, and no hog market risk. We provide training and support for the contractor on pig production, pig care, everything you need to be successful. And then we pay for anything that goes in or on a pig. So we pay for feed, transportation, vaccines, medications, marketing services, logistics services, veterinary services, lab fees, needles, disinfectants, anything that goes in or on a pig. And of course, then we give you feedback on the pig performance from your barn. So that's just kind of how those things work, how the relationship works. Real quick, we don't have a lot of time here, but we are a wean to finish. We'll talk about the barn real quick. We're a wean to finish operation. So all of our barns take 21-day-old wean pigs in, and the pigs stay there until they go to market. So we'll just look at some pictures here. And again, all this information will be available after the meeting. But there's a picture of our barn. This is a 2,450 head wean to finish barn. This barn is a little bit deceptive. It has a curtain side on it here. We're building solid sidewall barns now, so I don't have any updated pictures there, but 2,450 head tunnel ventilated barn. You can see it's got a generator on the side of the office there. It's got an office attached, shower in and shower out, stationary loadouts. That's the look at the fan bank on the back of the building, and again, solid sidewall now with windows, fully insulated solid sidewall, very energy efficient barn. So deep pit manure storage, that the pit holds a year's worth of storage of manure. Computer controlled. Again, we don't have a lot of time today, but the two computers here are controlling every aspect of the ventilation, feed, water, heat, all of it in the barn. So in many ways, set and forget sort of barn setup. Loadouts here, stationary loadouts. So people that are used to, loadouts that you have to move around with a truck or a tractor, we're not doing that here, just straight out the door here. That's a look at inside the barn down one of the center alleyways. This barn has 2 rooms, so this is one of 2 rooms that are identical. One's across the wall over here to the right. There's our feeder and water setup. Of course, total slats here on this barn. And here's how the little pigs, these are wean pigs, 21-day-old pigs when they come into the farm. We've got some brooder heaters here. So, and we're utilizing composting for dead disposal. Real quick, the Cactus Contract, and this is just hitting the high points here, but we're paying $44 per pig space per year times 2,450 head. That's $107,800 annually. We'll sign up to a 15-year contract. If we overstock the barn, we do pay extra. The best part about this contract is it's a stable monthly payment, regardless of if the barn has pigs. So if we have a production problem, you're still going to get paid. And then one of the things that's new for this year is we have an exclusive low down payment financing program where you can get into this barn for as little as $45,000 down payment, and it preserves the operating cash flow as if you had put $20,000 or 20% down on the barn. So again, I'm going fast and would love to visit with people, you know, one-on-one about this and in a little more detail. Real quick, the value components here, just so you can kind of see what we're talking about. This project is roughly an $800,000 project all in, not including the land. And year one, with some financing assumptions here, year one, you're taking home about $20,000 in cash to pay yourself for labor. And then there's about $18,000 of manure value that offsets commercial fertilizer in your operation. So that's a cash item. The first year equity build on the barn is around $32,000. And then you've got some tax advantage just with standard tax depreciation of about $30,000 of cash offset to your taxes. Now, there's some other tax advantages we don't have time to discuss here, but so total first year value is right around $100,000 to your farming operation. That's a grain farm that can utilize the manure and is doing the labor on their own. And $68,000 of that is cash. Now, the end game here is really what's important. After these barns are paid off, you're going to be taking home an operating profit estimate of about $75,000 for this barn. And that's very conservative, I would say. And then also you're going to continue to get the manure value. So you're going to have, once the barn's paid off, you're going to have about $93,000 of cash coming home. And the real benefit for the next generation is you've got this, I would say conservatively $650,000 asset on the books with zero debt. And historically, in the Midwest, those barns hold their value really well. I would say $650,000 is a very conservative estimate of what that barn will be worth in 15 years. So real quickly, and then I'll wrap it up. Why Cactus? You know, why should you do this with Cactus? Obviously, there's a lot of great producers out here in this industry, and we try to help each other when we can. But we're definitely interested in growing our business in Nebraska with the producer partners. I'd say number one is our commitment to the pork industry. The Holstone Farms Fremont, Nebraska packing plant. You know, we've been through some very trying times recently, and it just highlights the advice that I give to most people when they do this project. You're as a contractor, you're not really betting on the hog industry so much as you're betting on the production partner that you're with, the financial stability of the production partner you're with. Because hogs are going to be raised in the Midwest. Your facility is going to be in demand for a long time to come. But you need to be concerned about who you're signing a contract with. And packing margins for the last 10 years have lent a lot of stability to these companies. And people that don't own packing plants or participate in packing plant profits have struggled. And so I just recommend, no matter who you sign with, a contract with, that you make sure that they have participate in packing plant profits, okay? And then I'll just skip to the bottom. I would say one of our biggest strengths is our Esop culture. Our employees get up every day and they put on their owner hat and they go to work. And I think each of you understand what it means to own your business versus to work somewhere. And it's just a completely different set of expectations and level of intensity. And we bring that to our producer partners every day of the week when we work with them. So it's our biggest advantage. We'll get into some of this. How does this project go in Nebraska? The bottom line for Nebraska is the sooner you make the decision to do one of these barns, no matter who you're contracting with, the better off you're going to be. The lead time with DEQ and local permitting is quite long compared to some other states. And so just know that the sooner you make the decision, the better. And we'd love to sit down with you one-on-one across the kitchen table and discuss this opportunity in more detail. I'll just give you my contact information there. Again, I'll make these slides available to everybody at the end of the day here. So appreciate your time and thank you, and turn it back to Will. And again, just appreciate being here and looking forward to growth in Nebraska.
Well, thanks again, Rod. And I just will make a quick mention that I think his contact information's in the program, and this entire program will be archived and available on our website after today. So certainly anyone can access it. Carl, did you have something you wanted to share before we get into the questions?
Yep, I have a quick little slide deck also.
All right. You can go ahead and start that whenever you'd like.
Can you see it?
Yep, looks good.
Okay. Well, Rod actually made this very easy on me. There's a lot of similarities to the mash offs, our production partner model, and what we're trying to do out here in Nebraska. We have about 35,000 sows roughly in Nebraska, down in that Arapahoe, Cambridge area, and we have packer commitments out of Crete, Nebraska, and we're just looking for pig space to bridge the gap. We send a lot of pigs to Iowa every year to come back to Nebraska. So if we could keep those pigs in Nebraska, eating Nebraska corn, that's our long-term goal here at the mash off. So I'm going to run through a quick PowerPoint quick. Some fun facts fast facts about the mash offs is it's a 5th generation owned company. Ken and Dave still are very active in the business. And still monitor day to day operations. They take a lot of pride. We're the largest family owned pork production in North America. The mash offs have over 100 years of experience raising hogs. That's where they're embedded. That's what their lives are around, is raising hogs. In our whole system, we have about 1,300 employees with about 550 family farms that we partner with to finish these hogs across 9 states. As I said earlier, we have across the system, we have about 185,000 sows currently, which we market about 4 million pigs across the system. That's enough pork to feed 13 million people annually. So that's a pretty cool figure. We're regionally based with the headquarters out of Carlisle, Illinois, which is just outside of St. Louis. Our production partner opportunities here, it's an incredible way to diversify the farming operation, whether it's bringing back the next generation, just adding that extra, entity, that next step of growing a family operation that'll provide a stable long-term return with very little risk. I think that's something that's very unique about the contract feeding model is truly the mash offs are, taking the risk of the highs and lows of the market, whether we're in a pandemic or whatnot. And then obviously the fertilizer provides a natural hedge and a competitive advantage for row crop producers. I think Rod touched on a little bit. The history of contract pork production is proven. We run over to Rod's area of the world in Northwest Iowa. There's a hog barn every corner. And, these guys have been running barns for 20, 30 years over there on contracts. Our production partner model is the mash offs are responsible for the pigs, the feed, transportation, medicine, vaccines, any transportation to the barn or away from the barn. I think something that's very unique to the mash offs is we have local support in our production managers. So we're going to have guys that are, within, a couple can be to your site that day, with any help. This is truly a partnership that we want to have. So we're certainly not going to leave anybody hanging, and we want to be able to make sure everyone's successful in this whole project. Then any marketing or training that needs to go on and through the process. Our production partners are responsible for securing the financing and building the building, permitting the building, and any sort of building upkeep to make sure we can ensure we can safely and humanely raise our hogs. Any utilities such as electricity, LP, water, internet, small things like that. The day-to-day labor of the barn, so choring, walking pigs, treating pigs, marketing pigs, marketing, sorting pigs, and then obviously the manure handling. Mash-off contract information. We offer up to 15-year contracts on our wean to finish sites. We offer $43 on 2,400 spaces annually. Something that sets the mash-offs apart from other integrators is we offer an incentive program. So truly what you put into this barn is what you're going to get back out of it. So we have a wean pig overload program that we will double stock that barn for a certain time period. And then basically when we bring you back down to your 2,400 head, we will pay you for every pig that goes out the door. Also, another incentive we have is a value share. So when it's time to start marketing these pigs, we want tight loads of hogs. In our sorts. So basically the packer will be more efficient with tight sorts of hogs. So they share that back with us. Our average production partner over the system is making an extra $6 a space over 2,400 head barn. So, that $43 contract with, $6 a space extra looks very good on cash flow. Something that, if Ken Mashoff was on this conference with us, I think something he would really emphasize is he's had production partners. He was the first one to do business development, and there's been no late payments or missed payments in 22 years of pork production. Our production partners, through the COVIDs, through the bad times, the mash-offs are always there to make sure your payment is made and we're rolling. So I think that's something that really I wanted to hit on. Our 2020 barn spec is very similar to the Cactus barn. It's a 101 by 193 barn, solid sided barn, 2-room design, remote accessible. So these barns with the technology nowadays, that barn is going to have a brain that controls feed, water, temperature, heat, ventilation, that can all be accessed from your phone or tablet. It's a really cool feature, I think, that where these are not a full-time job, guys are going to be out in the combine and the planter, and we can still be monitoring these barns and these hogs through the remote accessibility of these barns. With it being wean to finish, we have tube heat, radiant tube heat like a lot of guys have in shops anymore. That allows us to really create a great environment for our wean pigs to be have a successful start, and really we went to the tube heat for just the efficiency on the LP usage. There's an alley along the center wall. We have a fast lane alley design, which we'll dig into quickly here a little bit later, but basically that allows for easier flow of pigs to the front and back of the barn. We have an attached office to the front or the side of the barn with a pass-through shower with biosecurity nowadays. All of our facilities are shower in, shower out. There'd be an on-site standby auto start generator. That with the solid siding, if in case of a power loss, we would that auto start generator would fire up and keep that barn rolling. And all the technology that we put into these barns and equipment, we're not just throwing it in because it's the cool new thing. Everything is researched and tested in Mashoff-owned facilities back in Illinois. We have a team of guys that test all this technology, and we're really doing what we know will be the best for our pigs and the partner. Here's a quick top shot of what our barn looks like. 2-room with one alleyway down the middle. It's pretty standard with our fast lane pinning here. It allows pigs, when they come in, we can move them to the front and vice versa for the front. The tube heat slot in the middle, tunnel vent, 3 pump outs per side for manure. This shows some current inside shots of our barn that I took. This would be our fast lane pinning right here. It just, when moving 300-pound pigs or 280-pound pigs, it just really creates an 8-foot alleyway that we can move pigs down instead of using our 2.5-foot alleyway. animal handling and just ease of movement really helps. In this picture here in the bottom corner, you can see the tube heat. That's our heat source for these weaned pigs. And then we utilize farm weld wet dry feeders. So these feeders actually create a mash on the bottom of the pan, and it really creates for a great feed efficiency. Here in Nebraska, I always like to show this image. This is one of our current partners' barns. He utilized a pivot corner to put this barn in. So these are great sites that, hey, we can put these on a pivot corner and not take away from our good irrigated ground and utilize our less profitable ground. Well requirements is a 15-gallon a minute well. And basically our annual manure production can fertilize up to 180 to 200 acres a year. This is another map I got from the production partner. With his first round in 2016, you can see here the east side of this pivot circle is where he applied manure. So utilizing the manure of these barns is really going to be beneficial for the row crop farmer. Something else that's unique to the mash offs, and I'm not going to talk too much about this just because I know there's a next segment on manure, but mash offs have a sister company in-house that we can do the permitting and manure management plans of these barns to help save on cost and get these things pushed through efficiently. University of Nebraska has noted a 5% increase in yields on fields with a manure application. Like I said, Mash Off Environmental is they can provide turnkey environmental permitting and compliance through the Mash Off sister company. John has more than 25 years of experience with state and local permitting and doing annual site assessments. Timeline for these sites once we say we want to go and we want to move forward with partnering with the Mash Offs. We have 110 days of planning, so finding our site, financing, zoning, permitting, figuring out utilities, water, roads. The whole planning process is a timely one here in Nebraska. So, it's something you got to take into consideration when wanting to move forward. Once we have our permit back, we're looking at about 70 days once we dig ground. Dig dirt to build this facility and be putting pigs in the barn. I'd encourage anybody to go check out our Mash Off website. It's kind of cool. You can learn a lot more about the Mash Off, show how our region model works, the process, and our commitment to our partners. There's actually a tab there too. You can click on to have a link to more about our production partner model. Here's my contact information. I certainly would encourage anybody to reach out to me. Like Rod said, I like sitting across the kitchen table and talking one-on-one with potential partners that might be interested in the mash offs. So that's all I got, guys.
Thanks, Carl. And Rod, we'll go ahead and bring you back on too here and say we've got about 20 minutes or so here for some questions. And again, if anyone viewing this at home would like to ask a question of any of our panels today, they can do so. We have the chat function here on Zoom. So I guess I'll just start off. We've talked about row crop producers. We've talked about young producers. What really makes an ideal production partner for you guys? Is it someone that has livestock experience or livestock background, or are you looking for someone you can kind of train up? You want to lead off with this one, Rod?
Sure. Well, first, thanks, Carl. I think between the two of us, we hit all the points. That's good. And what I'll tell you today, too, I just want to make a quick comment. The mash offs and Cactus are both growing in Nebraska, and we're trying to help each other grow in Nebraska too. So we're a little bit looking for different different regions and that kind of thing. So we kind of stay out of each other's way a little bit. And what I tell people is this, we are, and I'm sure Carl will say the same thing, but we're interested in people who want to improve. So the ideal business partner for us is someone that wants to improve their financial position with their current farming operation. Typically, it's a grain farmer, okay, who can utilize the manure, because the manure is a big value piece here. I think Carl showed 22,000. I'm showing 18,000. It's somewhere in that 20,000 range, okay? So the ideal producer partner can utilize the manure. They've got a labor source, whether that's a young person coming up, whether that's two brothers, whether that's you know, a dad and a son, or a dad and a daughter, labor source. And then I would say this: we're not afraid of people who have never done this before. Our job is to train people to raise pigs effectively and help them become good pork producers, okay? Because, you know, we're going to sign contracts with these people for 15 years, and hopefully it's 30 years. I mean, Carl and I do a lot of work. We want to sign 30-year partners here, okay? But at the end of the day, when they leave Cactus or they leave Mash-Offs, if they do, we want them to be good producers that know how to take care of pigs, and so they're valuable in the marketplace. And so I would say those three things: have a labor source, be able to utilize manure, and be willing to learn pig production, because that's all it is just a little bit of training. And we're Cactus and Mash-Offs are going to do a great job of training people that have never done this before. So,
anything you want to add on to that, Carl?
No, I mean, Rod hit it right on the nail on the head. If you're willing to learn, we're gonna make this partnership work. We like young, ambitious, guys that are just coming back to farming. We have 550 production partners across the system, so we have an array of experience. Whether you've been hogs your whole life or you're just coming home to the family farm and you need another opportunity. We certainly are not afraid with our our local support of our production staff, our field guys. We're going to make sure this barn's successful, because that's truly what a partnership is we're not gonna leave anybody hanging.
Sure.
We feel exactly the same way. So
let's talk about that training a bit. I know you mentioned that, Rod. Just walk us through kind of some of those things you work with when you sign a new production partner, as well as some of those resources that are available through your staff as they continue on with the company.
Sure. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to help people through the process of getting this project off the ground, right? So we're going to help them with the permitting. We're going to help them with the construction. Choosing a construction company. Again, we've got our specs, and there's plenty of great partners there in Nebraska that can help build these barns. But so we're going to walk them through that process from the time from understanding the project and what the ongoing commitment is, to obtaining the financing if necessary. We're not going to stand in the way of any relationships people have related to financing, for example, but we do have resources that we can bring to the table. So we're going to walk them through that process and be with them along the way, all the way, local zoning meetings, everything. We'll be there, all that. So once the barn is up, then the Cactus model is we have what we call early pig care specialists. And well, I'll back up. You'll have a field representative, and that'll be your major contact point with Cactus. And that person will bring all the resources that Cactus has to bear for your operation. And one of the things is an early wean pig care specialist. So when you first get pigs, we are going to have somebody on site to train you and help you understand how to take care of young pigs. As a matter of fact, as long as you're with Cactus, you will see an early wean pig care specialist. So we're not going, it's not just the first time you get pigs, or the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time. For the whole 15 years of your contract, you're going to see an early wean pig care specialist from Cactus when you receive pigs, okay? and they're going to work side by side with you, at least in the beginning, to help you understand the Cactus way, and mash offs will have the mash offs way. But so there's that, and then you'll have this support person or this point person that'll bring all the resources to bear. So you make one phone call, you get any medication you need, you get any consulting or questions answered about the barn ventilation. If you're seeing sick pigs, that's your point of contact, and that point of contact can bring to bear the veterinary resources that we have in-house, nutritionists, feed logistics. You're going to work with them to coordinate marketing and all that as well. So field person brings all the resources. And the one difference I think between Carl and me is that Cactus actually will mark our own pigs for sale. So we also have marketing specialists that will come into the barn and mark the pigs that are for sale. And so we're basically only asking the growers to sort and load the hogs. So that's kind of how it works with Cactus.
Yeah, so with the mash offs, we have local support right here in our communities that manage a portfolio of finishing assets that would visit your site multiple times a week, as often as you really need it. And another thing that's I think unique is we have our own on-staff veterinarians. So if we're having health challenges, we're going to have a vet there that only sees mash off pigs right away. And I think that's something that, with pigs, you're always going to be fighting some health challenges from time to time, especially with these weaned barns, getting weaned pigs started up. But our production staff's right here, and we have our sows here too. So we have a whole chain of command here in Nebraska that every one of them, all the way up to the top, is going to be right here to support these new partners or partners with the mash offs. And kind of go back and touch on our building facilities. So we help with the permitting with our in-house MEI sister company, but we also work with other companies that do the compliance and permitting. And like Rod said, we're certainly not going to tell you where to go get one of these financed, but we have connections. We have a lot of lenders that we work with on a daily basis to make sure this financing process is as easy as it can be. And something else the mash offs have done is we've went to a preferred builder system. So we have one builder, we give them a spec, we build a spec, and we go to our builders and we bid that off to multiple builders across the system. And the best price win, we do it for a price point. There's no cut corners. So literally our partners can come in, sign, get the financing secured. We're going to turn it over to our builder, and we're going to get a building built in about 70 days. And there's just not a whole lot of guesswork. I mean, we've really done that just for the ease of the partner, because it's quite the process, and we want it to be as quick and painless as possible.
Sure. Great. Let's talk about the regulatory and permitting piece of this for a bit. And we had a question from the audience asking if there are any policies or laws in place here in the state that either help or hinder pork production a bit. So I'll let you answer that, but I just kind of want to open up a bit more broadly. That's an issue we work a lot on here at AFAN. And so if you guys want to share some comments on what you see here in the state, both at the state level and then obviously at the county level in terms of zoning.
Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, so, Nebraska is quite different than, where Rod and I work sometime in Iowa. Iowa is just state regulated, so everything's across, the same from state line to state line. Nebraska is different by county. Which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes not such a good thing. That's why we work with our MEI group, other companies that, work every day with the compliance and the permitting and the manure management plans. Obviously utilizing resources like AFAN to use their experience with these permits. But it's a timely process, but we certainly have people and connections that are going to make sure that this process works out, and it's as smooth as possible. So.
Yeah. So just the timeline, depending on your county zoning regulations, you're going to either you're going to have to file for a conditional use permit many times. And sometimes it's just a filing. Sometimes it's a hearing and a final vote, so it's a zoning committee hearing and then a commission vote. That process, I've seen that in some counties take as little as a month up to 2 months. And now with COVID here and meetings being suspended and things, it can take a little longer. And then the Nebraska Department of Environmental Quality process, they give themselves 120 days. I think, Carl, they're running about 110 now. Is that right?
100 to 110.
100 to 110. And I would tell people this, and the reason I said on my presentation that the sooner you make the decision to do this, the better. What tends to happen is people postpone this decision till about June or July, and then the DEQ gets flooded. I wouldn't say flooded because it's not exactly a flood in Nebraska at this point, but they get stretched out, and that timeline goes out farther to their 120 days. And so if you can make this decision, pull the trigger, decide you want to do this in January or February, you're going to have a lot better chance of making this a shorter duration. The interesting part is you can run the local zoning and the DEQ process simultaneously. The risk you run is if for some reason you don't get the local zoning conditional use permit, then and for some reason you do get the NDEQ permit, then you still don't have a project to do. So there's a bit of a risk there depending on what county you're in. But I would say this, the companies in Nebraska, and I'm sure Mashoff's internal company, these siting and engineering and permit companies, they're not going to let you submit something to DEQ that's going to fail, okay? So, and locally as well. So there's going to be a lot of work gone into upfront evaluating these sites from a local perspective and an NDEQ perspective. But my point is, if you make that decision in June 1st, okay, you've got June, July, August, September, okay, and then you're going to be pouring concrete in October on these barns, which you sure would rather be pouring concrete in June and July, May, June, and July, than you would in October, November, because the costs go up. Construction delays happen in the fall and the winter. That 70 days of construction that Carl showed can get out to 100, 120 days if the weather gets bad. So the sooner you pull the trigger, the better in Nebraska because of the lead time.
And then you'd be filling that barn, if you hold off, you're going to be filling that barn, in high LP usage with an empty pit. And it's just,
yeah,
it happens. And that's just part of the business. But, certainly if people are out there looking to do these, this is going to be something that we need to be making these decisions, this November, December, January, and start the permitting process. So next spring we're digging dirt and we're filling the barns with pigs June, July next year.
I did the math, Carl, and when you just look at all the things that can go wrong with starting in September and October and November, it's on roughly $800,000 project. You're going to probably you're going to have up between 20 and 40,000 of extra costs if you start this barn in October than you would if you started it in May.
Yeah.
That's just the first year extra costs that'll be associated with the barn.
Sure. Well, thank you for those comments. And I just want to add, when you look at the regulatory piece and the zoning piece, we do run into challenges in certain instances in certain places, but I think there are resources available. I know both of your companies have folks in-house that are very knowledgeable in that. And then us as an organization at AFAN, whether it be from lobbying on the producer's behalf or kind of working some back channels to get through some of those issues we run into from a regulatory standpoint, that there are a lot of resources available for folks that have concerns about that. We've got about 5 minutes left here. Just want to touch on financing real quick. I know both of your companies have some arrangements or some special programs with different lenders. that lower that down payment, that lower that initial capital that you have to have up front. And so let's talk about those a bit. Not only what program you have, but how that impacts the cash flow at the end of the day. Obviously, if you have a higher loan to value, you don't have that cash in the operation. How's that going to look at that end return for the producer? You want to lead us off on this, Carl?
Yeah. So when Rod and I probably aren't sitting at kitchen tables, we're working in banks. We're sitting down with lenders, we're showing cash flows, and we're talking about what we're doing, and just showing cash flows and whatever it might be. But something the mash offs have done exclusively is we've partnered with Farm Credit Services of America for a program that is a low down payment mash off guaranteed. So basically there's an 80% guarantee or 80% traditional loan through Farm Credit. The mash off's guaranteed 15% of that note, and then basically 5% of it has to come from the producer, so that kind of like Rod's worked, about $45,000 for a down payment on one of these $800,000 to $830,000 facilities. We actually just approved one yesterday, and it's certainly a unique opportunity for a young person to come back that does not have a bunch of capital on hand or cash or equity to get in one of these facilities. How that 15% is paid back to the mash off is through our incentive program, so our weaned pig overload and our value share. So basically we apply those dollars back towards the note for about 5 to 6 years. Once that 15% is paid back, the cash flow dramatically improves. So certainly, those first 5 or 6 years, while you're paying off that 15% guaranteed, you're going to have to, provide yourself with some extra income. But just the equity and everything associated in getting to one of these facilities that low of a down payment is something certainly that we've seen beneficial to young producers.
Rod, do you have any comments quickly?
Yeah, it's always tough to talk about financing specifically and these type of things. You really need to sit down and go through it. But I'll echo what Carl said. We have many great lenders in Iowa and Nebraska, everything from local relationships in some of the communities we're in to Farm Credit Services, obviously, but and even some bigger banks, Rabobank, First National Bank, some of those types of things in Nebraska there. But I want to just focus real quick on the low down payment program. So our program does also involve a Cactus loan guarantee. I think what you're going to see from our program that's a little different from Carl's is that we have taken the amortization schedule on the loan out to 20 years. And so what we do is we try to maintain that cash flow, that 20,000 that magic 25,000 that we're all talking about, to pay you for labor. And the reason we do that is because most of the time we find young people don't have a down payment, but they're also looking for cash flow. So what it does, our program, it preserves that cash flow for labor. It's a slower equity build, okay? But you're still getting an equity build. You're still taking home a relatively decent amount of cash from the operation, and you're still getting the manure value, just like Carl's program. I mean, the manure value is the same either way. But there is a slight differentiation in what we're doing, and so the best way to understand it is to sit down with either one of us across the table and really compare, because it is a little bit different. And I'll leave us by saying one thing. The best thing about this opportunity is that Carl and I have to be really competitive on our prices and our buildings and our service, and we've got to be sharp, okay? And so what I tell people is this decision is probably going to come down to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a year between the two of us, okay? It just will, I promise, okay? So this decision is so much more about who do you think you can work with for 15 or 20 or 30 years? What kind of people are we? Can you get along with us? Are you a fit? Are we a fit for you? These things come down to such small financial differences that it's important that the relationship and who do you think you can work with for the long term is really the decision. It really is. I don't know how you feel about that, Carl, but I tell people that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, this is certainly something that's not a something quick. I mean, it's a long-term marriage essentially. So we want to make sure we're partnering with the right people in the right locations, and you know, that's just that's the great thing about having options. You might like the mash off system, you might not. You know, you might like the cactus system, you might not. And I think that's something that's unique. That there are options out there that you can go either way. Depending.
I hate to say it, but there's other options people we don't even want to talk about, right? And that's part of why this is such a great opportunity. And since this is the Pork Expo, maybe I can just say that I think that, you know, versus, for example, the chicken deal, you know, there's a lot of producers that want to put pigs in these barns, and there's more coming in Nebraska every day. So.
Yeah. And that's, I think, what's unique too about these buildings is, you know, you could build a barn for the mash offs, and in 15 years, that initial contract, I mean, you're going to build a barn that everybody wants. Me and Rod are essentially building a very comparable barn. So there's going to be competition, and, you know, building one of these 2400s and you use up that initial contract, you know, you're going to have me and Rod knocking on that door, paying top dollar for those facilities in the future.
That's exactly right.
Absolutely, guys. And again, appreciate having you on. We are here at the top of the hour. Real quick, do you want to share your contact information or your website? If folks want more information, how do they get in touch with you guys?
My cell phone number is 402-942-5365. And you can just go to our website and go to our partner page, and it'll send a direct link right to me, mashoffs.com.
Can you see my screen there, Will?
Yeah, it looks like Rod's is up there on the screen. And again, if folks, if you didn't catch this or have some more questions, you can sure reach out to our office too, and we can get you in touch with these guys. So thank you both again for joining us here this morning. I appreciate your insight and your perspective on everything today. So thanks again.